The Senate will come to order. Senate Bill 982, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Searle.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the bill pass. Speaking to that motion.
Senator, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, this is a bill to authorize to build on the good work and the vision of our president, who's sitting up there today, chairman of our Finance Committee, Senator Lucas, who had the vision to authorize casino gaming in our Commonwealth back in 2016. Or, back in I think it was 2019 or 20. But this bill authorizes the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors to place a referendum on the ballot for the voters to decide whether or not they would like to approve casino gaming in the Commonwealth at a particular location in Tyson's Corner. Again, it's not a bill to authorize a casino. It's a bill to authorize a referendum, which allow the Board of Supervisors to authorize a referendum, which would allow the voters to decide. So really quick, what the bill does, it just conforms city to locality throughout the bill, because right now we've only authorized it in cities before. It defines the locality in a way that picks up only Fairfax County right now, and it has certain requirements that it has to be within a certain area. The project itself has about 50,000. It's not just going to be a casino if it's constructed. It will also be a 1.5 million square foot project. A concert venue with 5,500 seats, a convention center with 275,000 square feet of exhibit space. It's going to be a ballroom, breakout rooms, a luxury resort, 600-room, 5-star hotel, 30,000 square foot ballroom, 10 breakout rooms, 15 restaurants, a 60,000 square foot immersive entertainment venue, a 60,000 square foot retail restaurant entertainment complex, 1,600 multifamily high-rise residences, and another 300-room hotel. Madam President, I want to first of all just say that I started advocating for casino gaming in this Commonwealth with you back in 2016 after they opened the MGM Harbor Casino in Maryland. And when I read in the paper how much money Maryland was going to suck out of our Commonwealth to pay for their schools in both Maryland and PG County, I thought it was offensive. And I thought that we needed to do something to recapture that money in our Commonwealth. And you and I wrote a column in the paper about it, Madam President, back in 2016 in the RTD, which people are welcome to go look. And back then, they anticipated hundreds of millions of dollars. Today, over $300 million a year flows over the bridge right by my house of Virginia money right into Maryland. If y'all remember Ross Perot talking about that great sucking sound, I hear it every day. I hear Maryland sucking all the money out of our state to pay for their schools. Last year, MGM reported that their casino in Maryland was their #1 performing asset outside of Las Vegas. That's because the Northern Virginia market is that much of an opportunity for not just Northern Virginia, but for everybody in this room. National Harbor is their crown jewel, and I'm tired of Maryland eating our lunch on this. Now, a study has been done. One of the potential developers for this, the potential developer hired the innovation group, the same group that JLARC hired to do our study, the exact same group. That group did the study, and they found that if this project were to be authorized, it would generate $1.2 billion of revenue, $1.2 billion of gaming revenue to be taxed. Now, what does that mean? $1.2 billion of gaming revenue would produce $232 million per year to the Commonwealth of Virginia for school construction. Well, in other words, almost $2.5 billion per decade for school construction for everybody in this room. That's a lot of money. That would probably double the amount of money that the current casinos are currently generating for school construction. It would also obviously generate almost the same amount for Fairfax County, which they could use for whatever they want, but they really need it for schools. But this would be the most lucrative project in the Commonwealth by far. Hard Rock, Rivers, Danville are all doing much less than this. Collectively, they do about the same as this would do. I also want to point out that the numbers I just gave you in terms of the benefit to the Commonwealth does not include what the Commonwealth would get off the income taxes of the 5,000 people working there. It doesn't include sales taxes or other taxes that we'd collect. It also, by the way, I want to remind everybody, because of this entertainment venue, every time Bruno Mars comes and sings songs in our state, the state collects income taxes off of that. And so that's additional benefit that would remunerate to our general fund. Madam President, I just want to note why the school construction is so important. Last year, the 21st Century School Fund and the National Council on School Facilities had a report, and they found that Virginia had the 9th largest gap on school construction spending in America. This bill would plug that gap in all of your districts, in everybody's districts, the amount of money it would make available. If you look at collectively how much we need to spend to fix up our schools. It also would generate metro ridership. Now, you might in a moment hear some arguments about local issues. I would encourage everybody in this body to leave the issues about Fairfax County stuff, leave that to the Board of Supervisors. We are not the Board of Supervisors. Let them figure that out. If the people in the locality don't want it, the Board of Supervisors can figure that out. If they don't want to authorize it, they don't have to. And if the voters in Fairfax don't want it, they can vote no. All this bill is about is giving Fairfax the opportunity to create this opportunity for the entire Commonwealth. Last thing I'll say is this creates a lot of jobs, Madam President, a lot of jobs, 2,000 construction jobs and 5,000 full-time jobs for people without college degrees that will be able to afford to live in Fairfax County, whereas right now, a lot of folks don't have college degrees, can't. This creates a path to the middle class for about 5,000 people and a lot of economic opportunity for people. So, Madam President, I think this bill is one of the most significant economic development bills you're going to see this session. There's something in it for everybody, and I'd hope we could pass it.
We have several speakers in queue. I want to go down the list so you know just how many people are going to be speaking, so you know just how long it's going to take. And this looks like it's going to be about 2 hours. But
Madam
no,
President.
I'm just... But I just want to give it to you in this order. Senator McDougall,
Madam
Senator from
President,
Hanover.
I had a question from the gentleman for Eastern Fairfax.
I
Would
have
he
one,
continue to yield the floor for a question?
5, 6, 7. Will you continue to yield, Senator Thurber?
I'll happily yield to my fellow Duke.
Fellow dude.
Madam President, I'd ask the gentleman, the version, and I realize the gentleman did not carry this last year, but the version of the bill that came through last year had some specific language about not having project labor agreements in the legislation. Does this bill have that language involved or included?
Senator Serval.
Madam President, I think if the senator is referring to the sports arena in Alexandria, that not okay. No, that okay. Well, the bill that the other one, I don't think that bill had language either, one way or the other, about a project labor agreement, and this bill doesn't have language one way or the other about a project labor agreement.
I thank the gentleman. I remembered last year's version had some language about that at one point.
This is the lineup. The senior senator from Fairfax County, Senator Marston. Don't stand yet. Don't pull your button yet. The senator from Arlington, Senator Favola. The senator from Lynchburg, Senator Peake. The senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Boysko. The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben. The senator from the senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Pekarsky. And the senator from Central Fairfax County, Senator Saline. So now, in this order, Senator Marston, the senior senator from Fairfax County.
Thank you, Madam President. Speak to the bill.
Senator, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'll try to be brief. Let me just give you a quick geography lesson to the metropolitan Washington area. Is that Tyson's Corners is just a couple of miles across from the American Legion Bridge, which leads into the wealthiest parts of Maryland: Bethesda, Chevy Chase, Potomac, Rockville, Gaithersburg, Northwest D.C., much closer than the MGM facility in Prince George's County at the other end of the District of Columbia metropolitan area region where the Woodrow Wilson Bridge is. So we'll be bringing, not only stopping the bleeding from going across the Woodrow Wilson Bridge to Prince George's County, as the senator from Eastern Fairfax has described, but bringing revenue back across. And because this will be a unique facility in that it's on the metro system, the Silver Line, and the trains run both ways, Madam President. The folks who live in D.C., who live in Arlington and Ballston, can not just go to D.C. for their recreation and entertainment, but can come down to the Tyson's Corner area, bolstering Metro. You know, Fairfax County, because of the changes in our population and what have you, is under a lot of fiscal stress. From the standpoint, you know, we pay $214 million a year in English as a second language. And that's great. We want folks to succeed in Fairfax. Their parents are going to be the ones who are probably working in these facilities. You know, the folks in Fairfax County need to make a decision on this kind of revenue. It's just not the state. It's also the locality that would benefit here. And I could go on and on about the benefits to a conference center, bringing people into Dulles Airport, lowering employment costs, bolstering the metro. And we have another attraction. We have one of the less high-end malls in America that people coming to a conference center are going to want to come to a conference in Tyson's Corners because they can go to the Tyson's Galleria and see the stores that they just don't have in their communities anymore. We need Fairfax County to be a place that appeals to young people, not just the older population we have now. And unfortunately, some of them don't want to see change. But if you don't change, if you don't grow, if you don't develop, if you don't look into the future, things aren't going to go well. And this is a look into the future. And I hope that everyone in this chamber can support this most important economic development, not only for the Commonwealth of Virginia, but for the County of Fairfax. Thank you so much, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to speak in opposition to
Senator,
the bill.
you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Just want to make a few points very briefly. There's no question that this casino would certainly bring in money to the state coffers. I don't think anybody could disagree with that. But I think we, as state leaders, have an obligation to think about how we are raising money, whether we're doing it in a fair fashion, and who's being burdened. I think this opens up a possibility of us raising money on the backs of individuals who could subject themselves to a very serious gambling addiction. Is this really how we want to fund necessary services in the state? I would hope not. I think we should look at our tax structure, frankly, and try to come up with something that is fair and ensures that the excessively wealthy perhaps pay a greater burden in taxes than they're currently paying, so we can relieve the burden on working families. That's another conversation, but it is related to this. Secondly, I live near Tyson's. I'm not right in that area, but I'm very close by, and it is a destination spot. Fairfax County spent a lot of time planning the Tyson's area. It's a mixed-use community, and there are many recreational destinations in the Tyson's area that families use all the time. They have miniature golf things. They have a game room for young people. They have slides. They have parks. They have all kinds of things that families use frequently. And myself and many others who represent districts near Tyson's are hearing every day. I've received more than 5,000 emails, many more. We stopped counting after 5,000. People in strong opposition to this because they want to keep the community the way it was planned. They got involved in their local processes. They came up with a sector plan, and they want to keep it that way. The idea of bringing more money to Fairfax County, it's not worth it to them. It's simply not worth it. Let me note, Fairfax County is one of the best places in the country to live. They have a very low unemployment. They have very high median income. They have the best-ranked schools in the entire country. They're doing quite well. So the need to have a casino to somehow bolster Fairfax County and then by association bolster the state just doesn't hold. Northern Virginia, I'm sure many of you are aware, we have many defense-related employment centers. National security is a big employment driver in Northern Virginia, and many of us have received letters from former national security experts asking us not to approve this because having a casino, again, with the gambling addiction element as a backdrop, can compromise the ability of individuals to get the top secret clearances they need and can compromise the ability of folks in our national security space to do the job they've signed up to do, which is keeping us all safe. We are treating this differently than we have treated other requests for a casino. This site did not go through the whole JLARC process like other sites have gone through. So that is an interesting point. And also, ever since I've been here, the legislation that has approved sites for other casinos has had strong support from the local jurisdiction. In fact, they were united in coming to the General Assembly asking for the authority. That is just the opposite of what's going on in Fairfax County. In fact, Jeff McKay signed a letter where he said, and I have the quote here, "This is not an authority we are asking for, and it is not an authority we are likely to use." So I just give that to you as a backdrop. And having more casinos in the Commonwealth, especially in a truncated process like this, is simply not the vision I have for the Commonwealth. So I hope there's some of you that will join me in my vision, and I hope this goes down. Thank you, Madam President.
From Lynchburg, Senator Peake.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to see if the senior senator from Eastern Fairfax will rise for several questions.
Will the senator rise for a question? Senator Serval.
The only senator from Eastern Fairfax will yield.
The only senator, well, and senior then.
I guess I'm senior, yeah. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Madam
Senator
President.
Peake, you have the floor.
Thank you. I know there's one specific proposal that we've all been talking about. Do you know the size, the acreage of that location?
I don't. I'm familiar with where it is. Just sort of speculating, I would say it's probably 10 to 20 acres, but I could figure it out if you give me a minute on my computer.
Madam President, further question. I think I'd heard anywhere from 20 to 35 acres. I'm not positive. Further question to the senator.
I'll yield.
From Eastern Fairfax. Do you know how many solar panels we could put on that parcel of land?
Senator Serval.
I don't have my solar stats off the cuff about how many megawatts you get per acre. I want to say I think you can get about, I don't know, about 20 megawatts out of 30 acres, I think. But I also would just like to note for the senator that there is currently an approved project coming for 847 acres of solar at Dulles Airport, which is pretty much would take care of all of Arlington and Fairfax's quotient if you look at its relative ratio compared to the stats we got the other day.
A further question.
Senator Peake.
I'll yield.
Does this project have a dedicated source of power?
Senator Serval. Are we talking about solar, or are we talking about casino?
Any kind of power. Where's power coming from?
Madam President,
Madam President, where's the power coming from for this casino? Will it be self-sustaining? Will it generate its own power?
Senator Serval.
24 hours a day.
Madam President, I think that'd be unlikely. I mean, and I guess in theory they could put an SMR in the basement or something eventually in about a decade. But
like that.
But I don't think that's part of the plan right now. So they'd have to hook up to the grid like every other business, I think.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Senator from Eastern Fairfax. Just briefly speak to the bill.
Senator Peake, you have the floor.
I have not really made a decision on this. I'm going to have to very quickly, but I would just point out to the body how saddened and disheartened I am to see the angst and acrimony and disharmony this is causing amongst our Northern Virginia delegation.
Speaking of Northern Virginia, we have the Northern Fairfax Senator Boysko in queue.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to speak to the bill and ask if the senator from Eastern Fairfax might answer a question or two.
Senator, you have the floor, and Senator Serval, will you yield for a question?
I'll yield.
Senator yields.
Thank you so much. So, as I understand, the bill as you have it written requires that the only eligible location would be located within 1/4 of a mile of an existing station on the Metro Silver Line, part of a coordinated mixed-use project development, within 2 miles of a regional enclosed mall containing not less than 1.5 million square feet of gross building area, and is outside of the Interstate 495 Beltway. I asked the senator from Eastern Fairfax, why is the bill so site-specific other than can you explain that? Because it is not my memory, and I served on the gaming commission, the gaming committee. We didn't micro-target one neighborhood or location. Could you explain to me why it's written that way?
Senator Serval.
Madam President, because there's one group that's come forward that would like to offer a proposal to the county to construct it, and this is obviously an extraordinarily expensive project. It's going to take a lot of time, effort, and resources to put together. It's obviously, as I said, twice going to generate as much revenue as the other 4 projects that we've currently authorized combined. And to put that level of effort and energy into a project, I think it was important to have the project specific so that before that entity goes through all the effort of putting together a proposal like that, there's some certainty about where it's going to be.
Madam Chair, Madam President, may I ask the senator another question?
Just want the senator yield for another question.
Sure, I'll yield.
Senator Serval.
Thank you, Madam President. Is it our understanding then that the Board of Supervisors, if this were passed and put this towards local referendum, would be required and obligated to work with said developer who came to the Senate with this proposal?
Senator Serval.
No, there's nothing in the bill that requires them to work with a specific entity at all.
Madam President,
Senator
will the senator yield for another question?
Senator, will you yield for another question?
Sure, I'll yield.
Senator yields.
Madam President, I know that many of us in this body care deeply about our labor brothers and sisters and the jobs that they are working on. I carried the collective bargaining bill for years and have always stood with my labor brothers and sisters on the picket line and other things. One of the things that I've heard is that this specific developer, who has no guarantee of winning the bid, has made an MOU with the labor community to assure this 5,000 jobs that the senator from Eastern Fairfax is talking about. It's not in the bill, though. So an MOU, is that legally binding? That is my question for the senator from Eastern Fairfax.
The senator from Senator Serval.
Couple points, Madam President. First of all, just before I answer that question, I just want to go back and say that there's actually a second site that would fit within this criteria. I believe it's the site currently next to Tyson's Galleria where they do Cirque du Soleil, which is not owned by the group we're talking about. Just want to point that out. But secondly, with regard to the MOU, an MOU is absolutely 100% legally binding with regard to whoever signs it. I in fact, spoke with the labor community this morning. They use it all the time. Their attorneys draft them all the time, and that's what they do to receive assurances in situations like this. With regard to whether a different developer were to come in, and obviously if the county were to, and by the way, the bill doesn't require the county to work with anybody specifically. As I said, there's 2 different sites that are owned by 2 different entities. The county could work with either if they so chose. If a different entity came in and wanted to develop, the county could also, as part of that process, put certain requirements in terms of labor on the project if they felt like that was necessary. And I also want to note, Fairfax County, our Board of Supervisors in our county, had the foresight to adopt the very first collective bargaining agreement in the Commonwealth. And I believe all the county employees are currently under collectively bargained agreements. And so I know that wages and benefits are very important to the Board of Supervisors, and I'm fairly confident that if a different vendor were to be chosen by them, they would require that, although they'd obviously have to have a public hearing and talk to their lawyers and whatnot. But so that's kind of my view of it.
Madam President, another question. I happen to, in my town of Herndon, the developer that is bringing this development forward. Actually had a long-standing MOU with the town of Herndon to do downtown development, and just in November backed out of it and canceled the contract that they had signed with the town. So I would ask people to take that into consideration. Madam President, I'm also wondering if I might ask the Eastern Fairfax County Senator another question.
Oh, you.
Thank you. Madam President, we know that large developments of this nature impact a community greatly. And again, as we have seen, this bill is written specifically for one region of our county that has undergone years and years and years of careful planning with input from the community, looking at issues around transportation, looking at around housing, looking at issues around public safety and schools and other infrastructure needs. What impacts did the study that the senator from Eastern Fairfax, did they take any of that into consideration? And what was it, and what was the result? I haven't seen that.
Senator Searle.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, first of all, with regard to the town of Herndon and their MOU, it sounds like they need better lawyers, and if they'd like to hire me next time, I'd be happy to help write them a better MOU. And I know a lot of developers have been pulling out of projects around Northern Virginia lately because the banks simply aren't financing development in Northern Virginia right now because of the uncertainty in the housing market and the credit markets. But there's some very big projects in my district that have been canceled. But with regard to the study, just like the JLARC study, didn't look at those variables. It looked at how much casino gaming revenue the project would generate so the state could have an estimate of how much tax revenue they'd collect. And if the Board of Supervisors has concerns about the issues you identified, that the senator from Northern Fairfax identified, like policing or fire, public safety, whatever, they could, of course, account for that in terms of whether or not they want to approve the project. They could also actually require the developer to proffer that as part of the proffer process and ask the developer to pay for police or fire or whatever if the Board of Supervisors feels like there's an impact there that they'd like the developer to fund. That's standard land development stuff. So, the board can take account of that, and if the voters don't think the board accounted for it properly, the voters can vote it down.
Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Boysko.
Just a few comments on this. I would not be standing up and opposing this if there were an open process, if they had buy-in from the local community, if this was not micro-targeted to one or two locations. This is not a bill that is ready for prime time. This is not in the best interest of the Commonwealth. There was no independent statewide study on this proposal. In every other time that we have voted to allow a casino, it has been with the support of the people who represent that area. It has been with the support of the community. It has been with support of the majority of people who live closest to that community. This is not the case. 106 homeowners associations and civic associations in the region of my community and my colleague in Central Fairfax County have spoken out and said this is not an appropriate use of our community. They have spent decades working on a comprehensive plan that creates the vision that the community members created with stakeholders over years. I worked for Senator John Faust, the Drainsville supervisor, which is right next to this location. We spent years crafting the Silver Line land use and transportation plan to be the most productive and economically viable usage that creates a space that the people who live there want. If my colleagues here want to get more casino revenue, I would encourage us to strip the language that specifically states exactly where it has to go and let it move from there, or send it to get a study with the Gaming Commission. This is not the way we should be creating public land use. That belongs with the local government. And if people want to wedge this in without looking at how it's going to affect Colonial Downs or Rosie's or the other gaming areas in the state. I think this is a poor planned proposal. I also think that it opens up a huge can of worms for anyone else to come forward and say, hey, I think that it would be great if we put a casino in the senator from Prince George's community. And then if I get a big developer who says, I'll foot the bill, his community has no voice in it. I understand that this is a hot topic, but I want you all to think about what we're doing here, and I urge the body to vote no.
The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to speak to the bill, and I promise I'll try and be brief.
You promise?
I promise. Start the clock.
Have the floor.
Okay. Tyson's Corner is a thriving community, and the county did not ask for this authority. But my two problems with this bill, I mean, I like the idea of a conference center. I like the idea of an entertainment venue. I like the idea of a hotel. But a casino doesn't come without problems. And I have problems with the process and with the revenues. In terms of the process, this bill does not allow Fairfax County to make an independent assessment of sites across the county. If they wanted to choose a site in, say, Springfield, either where the county was trying to attract the FBI or near the Springfield Town Center, they're not allowed to do that under this bill. Further, this bill, which we heard would be for the most potentially lucrative casino in the state, would charge the same $15 million license fee that we charge to the other casinos, which in my view is too low. In my view, the fee should be more like $60 to $100 million, with a large portion of that going to Fairfax County. In New York City, they're considering a casino with a $500 million upfront license fee. But the revenue split above what's being generated already at other casinos should be more fair to Fairfax if they're going to consider actually adopting this for the $1.2 billion of gaming revenue per year. So those are my two problems with the bill, in addition to the fact that the county did not ask for it and the residents did not ask for it. And with that, I ask you to oppose the bill.
The senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Pokarski. Senator, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. So, Madam President, as you know, one of my top priorities when I got to the Senate was to find ways to support and fund public education, as well as find ways to ease the financial burden off the backs of my constituents that have been levied upon them year after year. Many of my constituents being working class families, being firefighters, public servants, teachers, who have come to me over and over and said, we are being driven out of the county. We cannot continue to pay the property taxes, and coupled with the cost of living, I've heard that from more, it doesn't work at all. Oh, something's wrong. There we go. I'm pretty loud, Madam President. I've heard it from more and more families. And right now in Fairfax County, what we have been told is that we have almost a $300 million budget shortfall. And some of the ideas that are coming out of the county as to how to address this shortfall is to cut EMS, to cut firefighter services, the majority of those being in my district. What we have seen over the last couple of years in Fairfax is the amount of money that has been put into our public schools has gone down relative to the overall budget in Fairfax, and they have not been able to fully meet the request of the school system. And at a time, as we all heard earlier, our kids are in a position where they need more and more help. That is a problem for me. And I will say I don't have all the answers, Madam President, but still I know that this has the potential to bring major economic development and much needed diversification of revenue in Fairfax County, along with 5,000 well-paying jobs. 5,000 jobs. I believe that because of this, my community and my constituents deserve the ability to have a robust discussion at the local level, where many of the issues that have been brought up on this floor can actually be fleshed out, talked about with the people who are closest to the developments, to the traffic concerns, et cetera, et cetera. That is not the conversation that I think we should be having in the state process. And it should be noted that the Board of Supervisors may choose not to even bring this forth for a discussion. But I want to clarify something. In Fairfax County, there are 9 Board of Supervisors, and only 2 have come out and said very clearly, we do not support this. Only 2. That matters. So when we hear that Board of Supervisors do not support this, while they may not have asked for it, what they have been asking for years is help us diversify revenue. Bring us millions upon millions of dollars over and over and over again. I have been part of those discussions with the Board of Supervisors. And that's exactly what this would do. This legislation allows us to continue the conversation and allow the people of Fairfax to have that ultimate power of the decision. And I will say this as respectfully as I can, Madam President. However, it is not lost on me that in this body last year, we overwhelmingly voted to allow for legalizing gambling machines in some of our small businesses, in many of our small businesses. I voted for that. I know that's another conversation. However, those were not regulated or in the same way that a casino would be. So it makes no sense to me how we are continuing to have this conversation, or even the conversation about casinos and gambling at large, which that seems like that horse is out of the barn. that conversation was had years ago. So right now, I think taking all of these things into consideration, my constituents deserve to have the opportunity to discuss this and to have their voices heard. And if it is the will of the local community and my constituents not to go forward with this, it is their will. But we should not be making that decision.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Central Fairfax, Senator Salim.
Thank you, Madam President. Speaking to the bill.
Senator, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. For clarification, my seatmate needed the mic, so on the television screens, for those who sent me a text saying I look different, thank you. But Madam President, I wanted to speak in details of not only this bill, but also give reasons why I will be voting against this. The bill specifically puts in that any proposed site for the casino gambling establishment in Fairfax County would be within an area designated for commercial use and within 1 mile of the Metro Silver Line station, effectively targeting Tyson's as the intended location out of the many sites that Fairfax County could potentially had. Additionally, the bill requires that the site be privately owned and subject to local land use and property taxation authority. So we do put something in there for localities. However, unlike other Virginia cities that have pursued casinos for economic revitalization, Tyson's does not meet the condition that justifies a casino referendum. In the past, cities like Portsmouth, Richmond, Norfolk, Danville, and Bristol sought casinos under specific economic hardship criteria, including population decline, high unemployment, and poverty rates to stimulate growth in the struggling areas. This is not the case for Tyson's. Tyson's, however, is one of the wealthiest areas in Northern Virginia, driven by corporate headquarters, retail, and its proximity to Washington, D.C. It also suffers and faces traffic congestions and housing affordability challenges, which we have not addressed the 2 years I've been here. And it also already has an abundance of entertainment, shopping, and dining option, as a casino would dilute rather than enhance its continued growth. And specifically, I'm talking about the Capital One Center, which has invested millions of dollars in moving their headquarters to Tysons. Successful Fairfax development has not required a casino. Fairfax has had proven record of revitalizing without a casino. Let me take you back, since I'm the one that will be living in this district, and I've lived there since I was 10. Mosaic District, before 2008, the area was home to an aging multiplex theater, strip mall, and a low-density commercial building. After 2012, Fairfax County transformed it into one of the world's most successful mixed-use development featuring retail, dining, luxury, residential space. At that moment, I don't recall a single supervisor or anyone asking for a casino. In 2014, ExxonMobil moved its headquarters from Merrifield to Texas. And again, there was no conversation about a casino development, but instead, Fairfax County supported its transformation into an Inova Center for Personalized Healthcare, a world-class medical and research hub, which includes the Shar Cancer Institute and other medical facilities. Once again, no one needed a casino to ensure that there's development in Fairfax. Fairfax has never needed a casino. All of these major development efforts, no one proposed or demanded a casino. Why? Because Fairfax County invests in sustainable, forward-thinking development, not a quick fix like casino gambling. Tysons itself does not need one. And of course, we had to have conversations about how Maryland takes a boatload of cash from us across the river. If that was the case, why not put it closer to where the site in Maryland is, on the other side of the river in Virginia? As recent as January of this year, Maryland announced that they have a $3 billion deficit, and the casino did not fix that. And of course, I don't think the casino is going to fix our problems. I understand that this is a referendum, and I have spent weeks trying to explain to my constituents and folks that it is a referendum, not a direct casino bill, just for clarity. However, once we have labeled this as a casino bill, this is what it's going to end up being, is a casino bill that will lead to a casino that the community does not support. So for those and many other reasons, I ask that this body vote against this bill. Thank you.
The queue has been pretty much cleared out with the senator from Eastern Fairfax County, the senator from Eastern Fairfax County, Senator Serval.
Thank you, Madam President. Nobody else desires to speak. Speaking to the bill.
Senator, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I just want to apologize to the body for trespassing on so much of their time. Didn't think it was going to take this long to debate this this little project in Northern Virginia. First of all, I just want to address this idea of the disharmony that you've heard about in Northern Virginia. The Fairfax County delegation, I think there's 5 senators in this body who live in Fairfax County. The majority of us support this bill. There's 7 senators in the Fairfax County delegation. The majority of them support the bill. So I know that some people have a problem with it, but Fairfax County, you know what, is a big place. It's got 1.1 million people. It's larger than 8 states. You know, and sometimes people in a jurisdiction that large don't always agree with each other. That's kind of what happens. In terms of the land area, you've heard about, I said a moment ago that there's 2 possible sites where this could be located. I want to clarify that. There's 2 large parcels within the project area described. But you know what? All of Tysons Corner is included. And so if there's somebody else out there, if there's another developer who they can sort of put together an assemblage of parcels, they can put together a project, have at it. This is a project that the Board of Supervisors, if they decide that another developer has come, they got a better project, they want to put together, 5, 6 parcels, put them together, build something, that's allowed by this. It just has to be in Tysons Corner. Why in Tysons Corner? Tysons Corner, folks, is it's the economic engine of the Commonwealth, I think. Tysons Corner has a massive amount of commercial square footage. The Board of Supervisors redid their comprehensive plan a couple years ago to make it a city. The reason they did that was because of the Silver Line. And by the way, I've spoken to people who are on the Planning Commission who participated in the designing of the new Tyson's Corner comprehensive plan. They tell me that this project is entirely consistent with the vision that they set forth in that comprehensive plan for high density commercial, residential, and you know what? Entertainment type development. That's why the state helped Fairfax County and Loudoun County build something called the Silver Line, a $6.9 billion project, which the state donated a toll road to pay for. Remember that? We donated a toll road and all the revenue from that to pay for this project to attract exactly this kind of development to this precise location. And you're hearing a bunch of people saying, well, wait a minute, we don't want this density next to this place that we've invested billions of dollars of infrastructure to attract exactly this kind of development. You know what, folks? This is what we designed this for. I want to talk about this national security issue for a minute. I thought that it was amusing when some people who live in McLean, next to Langley, where they used to work, all of a sudden decided that this was a national security issue. Not clear to me why these people were silent when they opened MGM across the river. It's not clear to me why they were silent when they opened Charlestown Slots, about 45 minutes to the west in West Virginia. It's not clear to me why they were silent when they opened Rosie's twice. The first Rosie's and now the second Rosie's. It's not clear to me why these national security people thought our spies were so subject to being bribed when we authorized sports gaming on your phone, which you can do right now in this room. And if our national security community is so vulnerable to this, you know, we're already screwed. The reality, Madam President, is that I think it impugns the integrity of our national security community to suggest that simply that they're so vulnerable that locating casinos within like 20 minutes of Langley would somehow compromise the national security of the United States. Because it's nonsense. What it is, it's NIMBYism dressed up in a different set of clothes is all it is. And Madam President, I also want to remind everybody, there was some talk about the study. The group that did the study was the exact same group that did the study for JLARC. Exact same study, exact same group. You heard the senator from Western Fairfax a moment ago. She talked about the Board of Supervisors. She's dead on about that. Only 2 of 10 supervisors have taken a position on this. The supervisor who represents the site has not said a word about whether she's for it or against it. The one who represents the people who are going to be affected right next to it has not said a word. Madam President, the last thing I'll say is one little point and then the last point. The other thing I want to cite about this study that was done is it said $500 million per year of money that's going to come into this project is going to come from out of state. This is a chance for us to get that money back from Maryland that they've been taking out of us. And I want to talk about the opposition for a second. Just understand what the opposition is, all right? You have a lot of people in some of the most exclusive, wealthy real estate in all of the country who are opposed to this. That's what's going on. And I want to tell you, who are they doing the bidding of? MGM. We had a forum in my district on this issue a month ago, and they admitted on video, which I'm happy to send everybody here, that MGM paid for their bus here last year. You know who's creating all the emails you're getting? MGM. MGM is putting out things, text messages to people to get them to send you emails and to get you to send you papers. And so if you want to support MGM, if you want to continue to watch all this money, billions of dollars per decade, going over the bridge into Maryland, go ahead and vote red.
Mr. Chair, Madam
President,
President.
I want to help. I'll yield in a second.
You got to go in queue.
I want the Commonwealth of Virginia to keep Virginia money in Virginia to benefit all of Virginia. And voting green is what this bill does. And now happy to yield.
Am I going to have to use this? The question is, oh, sorry. Senator Okay, the senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Boysko, you are now in queue.
Madam President, I just take a little bit of issue at the last thing that the senator from Eastern Fairfax said. It is completely possible that there are different groups of people with different priorities who agree on the same thing. Sometimes my good friend from the senator from Franklin County and I, who are on opposite sides on just about everything, come together because we both feel passionately about a specific issue. So the idea that all of the opposition is somehow generated by some other casino is ludicrous. The people who live in the community, the people who are representing the people who are in opposition, are the ones who are going to be affected. Fairfax County has 1.2 million residents, and his community, people in Eastern Fairfax County are not going to be affected. People in far western Fairfax County are not going to be affected. The people in northern Fairfax County and central Fairfax County are going to be the ones who are affected. And I have communicated today with the chair of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, who again renewed his statement that he does not support this bill, but he is trying to be careful because we are in charge of the funding for the entire county, and he's trying to be pragmatic about it. Again, I renew my motion that we do not pass this bill.
Put my mic back on. You all sound like my sisters and brothers Thanksgiving after the election. The question is, shall the bill pass? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all senators voted? Do any senators decide to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 24, noes 16.
Ayes 24, noes 16. The bill passed.
Returning to page 13.